I stood in what used to be my childhood bedroom, holding eviction papers dated for next week, watching my younger brother Marcus load the last of our grandmother's antique furniture into his pickup truck. The house felt hollow, stripped of everything that made it home. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. "Your brother deserves it more. He stayed. You left. 28 years of being the responsible son, 10 years of military service, sending home most of my paychecks to help the family. And this is what I got in return. The family construction business, the house, the savings accounts. Even my old baseball trophies were gone. All legally transferred to Marcus while I was finishing my final deployment in Afghanistan. When I stepped off the plane at Jacksonville International Airport 3 weeks ago, I thought I was coming home to help run Thompson Family Construction, the business my grandfather built with his bare hands back in 1952. I had plans to use my military engineering experience to expand the company, maybe bid on some of those new government contracts for veteran-owned businesses. 10 years in the Marines had taught me discipline, leadership, and project management skills that could take our small family operation to the next level. My parents, Robert and Linda Thompson, had always talked about how the business would stay in the family. Growing up in Gainesville, I spent summers learning the trade alongside my father, mixing concrete and carrying lumber before I was strong enough to swing a hammer properly. While my friends were playing video games, I was learning to read blueprints and calculate material costs. Everything changed after September 11th. I was 19, watching those towers fall on the television in our living room, and I knew I had to serve. My parents cried when I told them I was enlisting instead of starting college, but they understood. Marcus was only 16 then, still more interested in skateboarding and chasing girls than learning the family trade. During my decade in the service, I sent home nearly 60% of my military pay. Every month, like clockwork, $2,000 went into the family account. I figured it was my contribution to keeping the business afloat and building our future together. When I deployed to Iraq twice and Afghanistan once, that monthly contribution never stopped. I lived in barracks, ate military food, and wore the same uniforms until they fell apart, all so my family would have financial security. Marcus took a different path. He barely graduated high school, spent 2 years at Santa Fe College taking random classes without declaring a major, and worked for the family business whenever he felt like it. But Marcus had something I never possessed: charm. He could make our parents laugh, sweet-talk his way out of trouble, and somehow always landed on his feet no matter how badly he screwed up. When I pulled into the driveway of our family home on Northwest 39th Avenue, I expected to see my parents waiting with sweet tea and stories about neighborhood changes. Instead, I found Marcus directing 2 guys I did not recognize as they loaded our grandmother's oak dining table into a U-Haul truck. "Hey, Peter," Marcus called out, barely looking up from his phone. "Good timing. Just grabbing the last of my stuff from the old place." "Your stuff?" I asked, confused. "That's Grandma's table. It belongs in this house." Marcus finally looked at me, and I saw something in his expression I could not quite identify. Smugness, maybe, or pity. "Dude, it's my house now. Mom and Dad signed everything over 6 months ago. Didn't they tell you?" The words hit me like incoming artillery. I stood there in my uniform, sea bag still slung over my shoulder, trying to process what he just said. "What do you mean, your house?" "The whole thing, man. House, business, bank accounts. Mom and Dad decided I should inherit everything, since I stuck around to help while you were off playing soldier." I walked past him into the house, calling for my parents. The living room looked different, emptier. Family photos were missing from the mantel. Dad's favorite recliner was gone. "Mom, Dad," I shouted. They emerged from the kitchen, and I immediately noticed they would not meet my eyes. Dad looked older, more tired than I remembered. Mom twisted her wedding ring nervously. "Peter, sweetheart," Mom said, attempting a smile that did not reach her eyes. "We need to talk." We sat at the kitchen table, the only piece of furniture that seemed to remain in its proper place. Dad cleared his throat and pulled out a manila folder thick with legal documents. "Son, we made some decisions while you were away. Big decisions about the family legacy." "What kind of decisions?" "We transferred ownership of the business and property to Marcus. He's been here, working hard, taking care of us. You chose the military over family. The accusation stung because it carried just enough truth to hurt. I had chosen to serve, but I thought I was serving my country and my family simultaneously. I sent money home every month for 10 years. I thought I was contributing to our future, and we appreciated that, Mom said quickly. But Marcus has been here physically. He's learned the business, built relationships with clients, kept everything running. I wanted to point out that Marcus had barely worked a full week in his life, but something in their expressions warned me to tread carefully. Where am I supposed to live? I just got discharged. My plan was to move back home and work with you. Dad shifted uncomfortably and exchanged a glance with Mom. You'll figure something out. You're resourceful. Military training and all that. That is when I noticed the eviction notice on the counter, addressed to me personally. Somehow, my name was on legal documents, claiming I was a tenant who had overstayed my welcome in what used to be my childhood home. How is my name on an eviction notice for my own family's house? Dad's expression hardened. It's not your house anymore, Peter. We made that clear in the legal paperwork. You have 1 week to find other arrangements. I picked up the folder of documents, scanning through pages of legal jargon, signatures, and notarized stamps. Everything looked official and binding. Properties deeded to Marcus Thompson. Business ownership transferred to Marcus Thompson. Even the family bank accounts showed Marcus as the sole beneficiary. Then I saw my own signature at the bottom of several documents, papers that supposedly showed I had voluntarily relinquished all claims to family assets, signed and dated while I was deployed overseas. I never signed these papers. You did, Dad said firmly. We sent them to you, and you sent them back signed. You said you did not want the responsibility of the family business. I stared at my signature, knowing with absolute certainty that I had never seen these documents before in my life. But the signature looked genuine, and the dates corresponded with my deployment period, when mail and paperwork often got confused in the chaos of military operations. Marcus walked back into the kitchen, grinning like he had just won the lottery. All loaded up. The new place looks great with Grandma's furniture. The new place? I asked. Yeah. Bought a house over in Hale Plantation. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, swimming pool. Really nice neighborhood. Bought it with what money? Marcus's grin widened. Family money. Business has been doing great. We landed some big contracts while you were gone. I looked at my parents, searching their faces for some sign that they understood how wrong this felt. But they just sat there, avoiding my gaze, letting Marcus celebrate his windfall while I processed the destruction of everything I thought I knew about my future. That night, I slept on the couch in what used to be my own home, staring at the ceiling and trying to understand how 10 years of faithful service and financial sacrifice had earned me nothing but legal documents I never signed and an eviction notice with my name on it. The next morning, I called James Thompson, our family lawyer, hoping to find some explanation for the documents that supposedly bore my signature. James had handled our family's legal matters for over 20 years, and I trusted him to give me straight answers. His office on Southwest 2nd Avenue looked exactly the same as I remembered from childhood visits, filled with heavy wooden furniture and law books that seemed older than the state of Florida itself. James greeted me with a firm handshake and the kind of serious expression that suggested he already knew why I was there. Peter, I was wondering when you would come see me. I have to tell you, I was not comfortable with some of the decisions your family made while you were deployed. He pulled out a file cabinet drawer and retrieved a folder even thicker than the one my parents had shown me. Your brother has been systematically working to turn your parents against you for about 2 years now. Started with small comments about how you never called enough. Escalated to claims that you were planning to sell the family business as soon as you got home. James spread several documents across his desk, including printed emails and text message screenshots. Marcus showed your parents these conversations, supposedly between you and some military buddy, talking about how you couldn't wait to cash out the old man's business and move somewhere exciting. I read the messages, recognizing my phone number and email address, but none of the words. The text painted me as greedy, selfish, and eager to abandon my family for personal profit. I never sent any of these messages. I figured as much. The language does not sound like you, and the timeline does not match your deployment schedule. But your parents believed them. Marcus was very convincing. James pulled out another set of documents, these bearing official seals and notary stamps. Here's where things get really problematic. Those signatures on the inheritance documents? They were forged using a power of attorney your parents obtained while you were deployed. Legally, they had the right to sign on your behalf for certain financial matters, but using it to transfer your inheritance was a clear violation of the agreement's scope. Can we challenge it? It gets worse. The family business is not just transferred to Marcus, it's being used as collateral for some very questionable loans. Your brother has borrowed over $800,000 against company assets in the past 6 months. $800,000. I tried to process that number. The entire business was probably not worth more than $1 million, including equipment and property. What did he need that much money for? James's expression grew even more serious. That's what worries me. Nobody borrows that much money legitimately without involving family members in the decision. And the lenders are not traditional banks. He showed me loan documents with terms that made no financial sense. Interest rates of 25%, repayment schedules that would bankrupt the business within 2 years, and penalty clauses that could result in immediate asset seizure. These look like loan shark agreements. They are. Your brother has gotten involved with some very dangerous people. And unfortunately, your name is all over the paperwork as a co-signer. My stomach dropped. I never co-signed anything. Same forged signature technique. According to these documents, you personally guaranteed these loans. If Marcus defaults, which he will because the terms are impossible, you are legally responsible for the full amount. I sat back in the chair, feeling like I was back in Afghanistan dealing with incoming mortar rounds. The situation was dangerous, unpredictable, and I had no good options. There's more, James continued. I did some research into your brother's recent activities. He married Sarah Jenkins last year. You remember Sarah from high school? I remembered Sarah. We dated for 2 years before I enlisted, and I thought we might have a future together. She was beautiful, smart, and ambitious, but she wanted security and stability more than she wanted adventure. Sarah helped Marcus create the fake text messages. She knew enough about your personality and history to make them believable to your parents. They planned this whole scheme while you were overseas, probably starting around the time they got engaged. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had experienced in combat. Enemy attacks you expect, but having your own family systematically destroy your life while you are serving your country felt like a violation of everything sacred. What are my options? Legally, you can challenge the forged signatures, but it will take time and money. The immediate problem is those loan guarantees. The people Marcus borrowed from do not wait for court decisions. If they decide you owe them money, they collect it however they can. James handed me a business card for a criminal defense attorney. You are going to need more help than I can provide. These loan documents suggest federal crimes were committed, and unfortunately, your forged signature makes you a potential target for prosecution. I left James's office feeling like I was drowning in legal quicksand. Not only had my family stolen my inheritance, they had set me up to take responsibility for loans I never authorized, involving criminals who would not hesitate to use violence for collection. That afternoon, I drove to the construction company office on Northwest 6th Street, hoping to find some answers or maybe salvage something from the wreckage of my family legacy. The building looked run down, with peeling paint and a parking lot full of weeds. 2 trucks sat in the yard, both older models that should have been replaced years ago. Marcus's car was not there, but I used my key to enter through the back door. The office felt abandoned, with paperwork scattered across desks and several months of mail piled unopened in corners. I checked the file cabinets, looking for financial records that might explain where $800,000 had gone. What I found made everything worse. Client complaints, unpaid invoices, and letters from suppliers demanding payment for materials delivered but never paid for. Marcus had been running the business into the ground while living off borrowed money. One file contained police reports. Apparently, Marcus had been involved in several incidents over the past year, including a bar fight, a domestic disturbance call involving Sarah, and a complaint from a neighbor about loud parties and suspicious visitors at all hours. I was still reading through the paperwork when I heard voices outside. Marcus's voice, along with 2 others I did not recognize. They were discussing money, deadlines, and consequences for late payments. The tone suggested this was not a friendly business meeting. I quickly gathered the files I needed and slipped out the back door, but not before overhearing enough of their conversation to understand that Marcus owed money to people who were not patient about collecting debts. Driving home, I realized that challenging the forged signatures was just the beginning of my problems. My brother had not just stolen my inheritance, he had used my identity to guarantee loans from organized criminals. And now those criminals expected payment from someone named Peter Thompson. 3 days later, I was drinking coffee in a Waffle House off Interstate 75 when 2 FBI agents walked through the door and headed straight to my booth. Agent Sarah Martinez and Agent Kevin Walsh introduced themselves with the kind of polite professionalism that immediately told me my problems had just escalated beyond anything I could handle alone. "Mr. Thompson, we need to discuss some financial transactions connected to your family's construction business." They slid into the booth across from me, and Agent Martinez opened a folder filled with bank records, loan documents, and surveillance photos. "Are you familiar with the Castellano family organization?" I was not, but the way she said it suggested I should be concerned. "They operate several legitimate businesses in North Florida, but they're primarily known for money laundering and loan sharking. Your family's construction company has been processing payments for them for the past 18 months. She showed me bank records that documented dozens of transactions, each for amounts just under $10,000, to avoid federal reporting requirements. Payments from shell companies with names like Sunshine Property Management and Gulf Coast Development, all flowing through Thompson family construction accounts before being distributed to various individuals. The pattern suggests classic money laundering. Dirty cash comes in as payment for fictional construction services, gets mixed with legitimate business income, then gets paid out as clean money for supposed subcontractor work. I was deployed overseas for the past 18 months. I had nothing to do with any of this." Agent Walsh leaned forward. "That's what makes this interesting. According to the business registration documents, you're listed as the primary contact for federal compliance issues. Your signature is on file with the IRS, the Department of Labor, and the Small Business Administration." More forged signatures. I was beginning to understand that Marcus had not just stolen my inheritance, he had systematically used my identity to create legal liability for crimes I knew nothing about. "We've been investigating the Castellano organization for 3 years. Your brother Marcus has been cooperating with them, but the paperwork suggests you're the one responsible for compliance and oversight." Agent Martinez showed me surveillance photos of Marcus meeting with men in expensive suits at restaurants around Gainesville. The timestamps showed these meetings had been happening for over 2 years, always while I was overseas. Last week, we intercepted communications suggesting the Castellanos are unhappy with recent payment delays. Apparently, your brother kept money that was supposed to be delivered to them, and they expect the business owners to make it right. How much money? $800,000, plus interest and penalties. They're calculating the total debt at just over $1 million. The same $800,000 James mentioned, now with criminal interest rates attached. I realized Marcus had borrowed money from the mob using the family business as collateral, then kept the money instead of delivering it to its intended recipients. They think you're responsible because your name is on all the compliance documents. From their perspective, you're the legitimate business owner who authorized the transactions. Agent Walsh pulled out another set of documents, these bearing official federal seals. "Unfortunately, we have to treat you as a suspect until we can prove otherwise. The Financial Crimes Unit has been building a case against the Thompson family construction money laundering operation, and according to our evidence, you're the primary responsible party." I felt like I was in a nightmare that kept getting worse. Not only was I responsible for loans I never authorized, I was now a federal suspect in a money laundering investigation involving organized crime. "What happens now?" "You need a lawyer, immediately. We're required to inform you that you're under federal investigation for conspiracy to commit money laundering, financial fraud, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent and the right to an attorney." They were not arresting me, but they made it clear that could change quickly depending on what their investigation uncovered. I was free to go, but I should not leave the state and should expect additional contact from federal agents. After they left, I sat in that Waffle House booth for 2 hours, trying to process the reality that my little brother's greed and manipulation had turned me into a federal fugitive. Every decision I had made in good faith, from enlisting in the military to sending money home to support the family business, had been twisted into evidence of criminal activity. That evening, Marcus called me for the first time since I had been home. "Hey, brother, heard you had some visitors today. Feds asking questions about the business." "You mean the business you stole from me? The one you've been using to launder money for criminals?" Marcus laughed, actually laughed, like this was all some kind of joke. "Relax, Peter. Everything's under control. I've got lawyers handling it." "Under control?" "I'm under federal investigation because of your crimes." "Hey, technically they're your crimes. Your name is on all the paperwork. I was just helping manage things while you were gone." The casual way he said it, like framing me for federal crimes was just part of normal business operations, made me realize that Marcus was not just greedy or irresponsible, he was genuinely dangerous. "The Castellanos want their money, Marcus. If you don't pay them, they're going to come after me because my name is on the business registration." "Yeah, about that. I've been thinking maybe it's time for you to take responsibility for your own company. You always wanted to run the business, right? Well, now you get to handle all the complicated stuff." He was planning to let me take the fall for everything. 10 years of military service, a clean record, a future full of possibilities, and my own brother was willing to sacrifice all of it to save himself from the consequences of his own criminal behavior. "I never signed any of those documents, Marcus. We both know you forged my signature. Prove it. Good luck explaining that to the FBI and the Castellanos. I'm sure they'll be very understanding about clerical errors." The call ended, and I realized I was completely alone. My parents had chosen Marcus over me. My former girlfriend had helped plan my destruction, and now my brother was actively working to ensure I would take responsibility for his crimes. But Marcus had made one critical mistake. He assumed that 10 years in the Marines had taught me how to follow orders and accept defeat. What it actually taught me was how to fight back when the odds were against me, and how to never surrender when innocent lives were at stake. My life depended on proving my innocence and exposing the truth about Marcus's crimes. The question was whether I could do it before the FBI arrested me or the Castellanos decided to collect their money through violence. The criminal defense attorney James recommended, Patricia Santos, looked younger than I expected but spoke with the confidence of someone who had handled serious federal cases. Her office downtown reflected her success, with awards from the Florida Bar Association and commendations from veteran service organizations covering one entire wall. "Agent Martinez called me yesterday," Patricia began. "She's actually not convinced you're guilty of anything, which is unusual in federal financial crimes cases. Usually, they don't reach out to defense attorneys unless they're looking for a plea bargain." She reviewed the case files, taking notes and asking detailed questions about my military service and family history. "The FBI has been investigating the Castellano organization for 3 years, but they've had trouble getting solid evidence of money laundering. Your family's construction business represents their best chance to prove how the operation works. So I'm useful to them as a witness? Potentially. Agent Martinez specializes in financial crimes involving veteran exploitation. She's seen cases where returning service members get framed for crimes they didn't commit, usually by family members who use their deployment time to establish fraudulent business relationships." Patricia pulled out a thick folder filled with similar cases from around the country. Military families are attractive targets for organized crime because service members often have clean records, established financial histories, and limited ability to monitor domestic business activities while deployed. The Castellanos probably recruited Marcus specifically because he had access to your identity and military credentials. She explained that federal investigators were more interested in stopping the money laundering operation than prosecuting individual cases, especially when the evidence suggested coercion or identity theft. "Agent Martinez wants to meet with you again, but this time with me present and with a cooperation agreement that protects you from prosecution in exchange for testimony against the actual criminals." That afternoon, we met Agent Martinez at her office in the federal building downtown. The cooperation agreement looked like a lifeline, offering immunity from prosecution in exchange for my assistance in gathering evidence against Marcus and the Castellano organization. We need recorded conversations with your brother, Agent Martinez explained. He's been careful about electronic communications, but he seems comfortable talking to you directly. She showed me surveillance equipment that looked like something from a spy movie. A digital recorder disguised as a pen, wireless microphones that could be sewn into clothing, and software that could analyze voice patterns to prove authenticity. We also need you to maintain normal contact with your family. Your parents might have information they don't realize is important, and we need to understand how much they knew about Marcus's activities. I agreed to cooperate, partly because it offered legal protection, but mostly because I was starting to understand that this investigation was bigger than my personal family problems. Marcus had not just stolen from me. He had helped criminals move money that might be connected to drug trafficking, human trafficking, or other serious crimes. That evening, I called my military commander from my last deployment, Colonel Thompson, to explain my situation and ask for advice. Military leadership training emphasizes that you never abandon fellow service members in crisis, and I hope that principle might extend to legal troubles at home. Peter, I've been worried about you since your discharge. Your family situation never sounded right based on what you told me about your financial contributions home. Colonel Thompson had dealt with similar cases during his 25-year career and knew resources available through military legal assistance programs. I'm connecting you with Major Rodriguez at MacDill Air Force Base. She runs a program specifically designed to help veterans who face legal problems related to family exploitation during deployment. Major Maria Rodriguez turned out to be Agent Martinez's sister, which seemed like an impossible coincidence, until they explained that military families often pursue law enforcement careers and frequently collaborate on cases involving veteran exploitation. We see this pattern more often than you'd think, Major Rodriguez explained. Family members use deployment time to establish fraudulent business relationships, knowing that military communication limitations make it difficult for service members to monitor domestic financial activities. She provided legal resources through the military justice system that could work alongside the Federal Cooperation Agreement, ensuring that my military record would not be damaged by the criminal investigation. We're also connecting you with David Miller, an investigative journalist who specializes in veteran exploitation cases. His reporting has led to federal legislation protecting military families from financial fraud during deployment. David Miller worked for the Gainesville Sun and had been tracking the Castellano organization's activities in North Florida for over 2 years. His research provided context that helped me understand how Marcus had become involved with organized crime. Your brother started gambling heavily about 3 years ago. Sports betting, poker games, casino trips to Biloxi. He accumulated serious debt with local bookmakers who are connected to the Castellano family. David's files showed that Marcus's gambling debts had reached over $100,000 by the time he started working with the money laundering operation. They offered him a choice: pay the debt immediately or help them move money through the family business. Your military credentials and the business's established history made it an attractive opportunity for them. The journalism investigation had uncovered connections between Marcus and Sarah that went deeper than their marriage. Sarah worked for a title company that processed real estate transactions, giving her access to property information and legal documentation procedures. She helped Marcus understand how to forge signatures convincingly and how to file business documents that would transfer liability to you while you were deployed. David's reporting would eventually expose the veteran exploitation scheme publicly, but first, he needed additional evidence that could only be gathered through the federal investigation. Working with this team of allies felt like having military backup again. Each person brought specific skills and resources that were essential for building a case against Marcus and the Castellano organization. Your brother made one critical mistake, Agent Martinez explained. He assumed you would stay quiet to protect the family reputation, or that you would accept responsibility to avoid legal complications. He never expected you to fight back with professional help. The cooperation agreement required me to maintain normal family contact while gathering evidence, which meant I had to pretend everything was fine while secretly recording conversations that might send my brother to federal prison. The hardest part is that he's still your family, Patricia warned. Even when people betray us, it's emotionally difficult to take actions that will result in their punishment. But I had learned in the military that protecting innocent people sometimes requires stopping dangerous people. even when those dangerous people are familiar to you. Marcus's choices had put not just me at risk, but potentially other veteran families who might face similar exploitation. The real question was whether I could gather enough evidence to stop the money laundering operation before Marcus realized what I was doing, and took steps to eliminate the threat I represented to his criminal partners. Wearing a wire to record conversations with your own family feels like a betrayal, even when they have already betrayed you completely. The FBI's recording equipment was so sophisticated that I could capture clear audio from across a room, but knowing that every word might be used as evidence in federal court made even casual conversation feel dangerous. My first target was a family dinner. Mom arranged at Marcus's new house in Hyle Plantation. The neighborhood was exactly what I expected. Massive houses with perfect landscaping, 3-car garages, and the kind of quiet prosperity that suggested everyone made their money legitimately. Marcus's house was a 4-bedroom colonial, with a circular driveway and enough square footage to accommodate a family of 8. The furniture I recognized from our childhood home looked small and out of place, in rooms designed for much grander possessions. "Pretty nice setup, right?" Marcus said, giving me a tour that felt like a display of his victory over me. Swimming pool, game room, home theater. Sarah's already talking about redecorating. I complimented his success while the recording equipment captured every word, including his casual admission that business had been incredibly profitable over the past 2 years. Dinner conversation revealed information that Agent Martinez needed for the federal investigation. Marcus talked openly about business relationships with construction clients I had never heard of, projects that involved unusual payment schedules, and cash transactions that seemed far too large for legitimate construction work. "We're doing a lot of renovation work for some property management companies," Marcus explained. "They pay in cash, want things done quickly, don't ask too many questions about permits or inspections." Sarah added details about her role in processing property transactions that involved the same shell companies Agent Martinez had identified as part of the money laundering operation. "My title company handles a lot of quick sales for investors who flip properties. Cash buyers, usually. They're not picky about paperwork as long as the transfers go through smoothly." Mom and Dad seemed uncomfortable with some of the conversation, suggesting they knew more about Marcus's activities than they had admitted to me. "Sometimes I worry about the kind of people Marcus works with," Mom said quietly. "They don't seem like normal construction clients." Dad quickly changed the subject, but not before the recording equipment captured his admission that he had met some of Marcus's business partners and found them intimidating. After dinner, Marcus and I went out to the pool area where he felt comfortable speaking more openly about his business operations. The thing about cash construction work is that you can really maximize profits when you don't have to worry about all the government paperwork and tax complications. These property management companies understand business efficiency. He explained how the fake construction invoices worked, describing them as creative accounting that helped clients manage their tax liabilities more effectively. "It's not illegal if the work gets done eventually. We might invoice for a kitchen renovation in January and actually do the work in March. But the client still gets what they paid for." Marcus also revealed that he had been using my military credentials to win construction contracts reserved for veteran-owned businesses, generating additional income by fraudulently claiming veteran status for projects I knew nothing about. The veteran preference thing is a goldmine. Government contracts, corporate diversity initiatives, special financing programs. Your military record opened doors I never could have accessed on my own. The recording captured his admission that he had forged my signature on dozens of veteran business applications, fraudulently claiming that I was actively involved in company management while I was deployed overseas. More importantly, Marcus discussed his relationship with the Castellano organization in terms that clearly established his criminal intent. "Tony Castellano is actually a pretty reasonable guy to work with. As long as you deliver on time and keep your mouth shut, he's happy to let you earn good money for simple services." He described the money laundering process in detail, explaining how construction payments were used to convert illegal cash into legitimate bank deposits. "They bring cash from whatever businesses they run. We write invoices for construction services that we might or might not actually provide. They pay the invoices with cash, and we deposit clean money that looks like normal business income. Simple and profitable." Marcus admitted that he had been skimming money from the Castellano payments for personal expenses, justifying it as a service fee for the risks involved in money laundering. They're making millions from their operations, so they're not going to miss a few thousand here and there. Besides, I'm providing a valuable service that requires compensation. What he did not understand was that organizations like the Castellanos keep detailed financial records and notice when money goes missing, especially large amounts that were supposed to be delivered to specific recipients. The only problem is that they've started asking more questions about the business management structure. They want to meet the guy whose name is on all the federal compliance paperwork. That guy was me, and Marcus had been avoiding the meeting by claiming I was still overseas on classified military assignments. But now that you're back, Tony's expecting to meet his business partner. He's been very patient, but patience has limits in his line of work. Marcus suggested that I should attend the next business meeting with Tony Castellano, describing it as an opportunity to take real ownership of the family business and its profitable relationships. You always wanted to run the company, Peter. Here's your chance to step up and handle the advanced business development that requires real leadership skills. He was setting me up to meet with organized crime figures, while recorded evidence established that he had been stealing from them. My presence at such a meeting would not just implicate me in money laundering. It would put me at physical risk when the Castellanos discovered their missing money. The recording session provided Agent Martinez with enough evidence to prove Marcus's criminal intent and his systematic use of my identity for fraudulent purposes. But it also revealed that the situation was more dangerous than anyone had realized. Tony Castellano is not patient, Agent Martinez explained. If he thinks you're responsible for the missing money, he's not going to wait for federal investigations or legal proceedings. He handles business problems directly and permanently. The federal investigation now had to move quickly, not just to build a case against the money laundering operation, but to protect me from violent retaliation by criminals who believed I was responsible for Marcus's theft. We're going to arrest the key members of the Castellano organization tomorrow morning, including your brother. But first, we need you to have one more conversation with Marcus. This time, to get him to admit where he hid the money he stole from them. The next recording session would determine whether I could prove my innocence or become a permanent target for organized crime figures who specializes in eliminating problems that threaten their operations. The FBI raid on Thompson Family Construction happened at exactly 6 in the morning on a Tuesday, coordinated with simultaneous raids on the Castellano family businesses and Marcus's house in Hale Plantation. I watched from Agent Martinez's surveillance van as federal agents executed search warrants with the precision of a military operation. Marcus's arrest went smoothly until he realized the handcuffs were real and the charges were serious. From the surveillance video, I could see him trying to explain to Agent Walsh that everything was just a misunderstanding, that he was actually cooperating with law enforcement, that his brother was the real criminal in the family. He's claiming you forced him to launder money using your military connections, Agent Martinez reported. Says you threatened him and your parents if he didn't cooperate with your criminal schemes. Marcus's last-minute attempt to frame me completely fell apart when agents found $800,000 in cash hidden in his home theater system, along with detailed records of his skimming from Castellano money transfers. Sarah's arrest at the title company revealed additional evidence of the fraud scheme. Her office files contained dozens of forged documents bearing my signature, along with tutorials she had written explaining signature forgery techniques to Marcus. She documented everything, Agent Walsh said, reviewing the evidence. Email instructions about how to copy your handwriting style, practice sheets where Marcus perfected your signature, even video recordings of them discussing which documents to forge next. The federal task force had been building cases against organized crime figures for 3 years. But the Thompson family construction evidence provided the missing pieces that proved how money laundering operations actually worked. Tony Castellano and 6 of his associates were charged with racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit financial fraud. The evidence seized from the construction company showed exactly how millions of dollars in illegal cash had been converted into legitimate business income. Your brother's cooperation with our investigation was inadvertent but extremely valuable, Agent Martinez explained. The recordings we made captured him explaining their entire operation in detail. Marcus faced federal charges for money laundering, identity theft, financial fraud, and conspiracy to commit racketeering. The evidence was so overwhelming that his attorney immediately began discussing plea bargain options. He's looking at 12 to 15 years in federal prison, Patricia Santos informed me. The identity theft charges alone carry mandatory minimum sentences, and the money laundering convictions will run consecutively rather than concurrently. Sarah received similar charges, but her cooperation with the investigation reduced her potential sentence to 5 to 7 years. She provided testimony about Marcus's systematic use of my identity and her role in creating forged documents. My parents' situation was more complicated. They had not directly participated in the money laundering operation, but they had allowed Marcus to use family business assets for criminal purposes and had been willfully ignorant about the source of his sudden wealth. Your father faces possible charges for conspiracy and accessory after the fact, Agent Martinez explained. He knew Marcus was involved with dangerous people, but chose not to ask questions about the cash payments coming through the business. Mom's cooperation with the federal investigation earned her immunity from prosecution. She provided recordings of conversations where Marcus had admitted to forging my signature and stealing from the Castellano organization. She's been secretly documenting his behavior for months because she was afraid of what he might do next, Agent Martinez said. Her evidence corroborates everything we recorded during your cooperation with the investigation. The legal resolution moved faster than I expected. Federal prosecutors were eager to close the case quickly because the evidence was so clear and because several defendants were cooperating to reduce their own sentences. Marcus pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for a 12-year sentence and full restitution of the money he had stolen. His plea agreement required him to provide detailed testimony about the Castellano organization's operations and to surrender all assets purchased with laundered money. The house in Hale Plantation, the luxury cars, and all of the furniture and electronics were seized as proceeds from criminal activity. Marcus would be released from federal prison with nothing except the criminal record that would follow him for the rest of his life. Sarah's 5-year sentence reflected her cooperation with the investigation and her agreement to provide restitution for the identity theft charges. Her career in the title company industry was over, and she would be released as a convicted felon with limited employment opportunities. Dad received a suspended sentence and probation in exchange for his testimony against the Castellano organization, but he faced civil lawsuits from clients who had lost money due to the construction company's fraudulent activities. The legal victory felt satisfying, but the family destruction was complete. Marcus would be in federal prison until his late 30s. Sarah's life was ruined, Dad's reputation in the construction industry was finished, and Mom was left trying to rebuild her life after watching her family disintegrate. Justice in these cases is always complicated, Patricia Santos explained. You proved your innocence and stopped the criminals, but the cost was the complete destruction of your family relationships. The financial restitution process took several more months, but eventually, I recovered most of the stolen military pay and inheritance money. The federal court ordered Marcus to repay over $600,000 in stolen funds, plus interest and penalties. Thompson Family Construction was returned to me free of all fraudulent debts and criminal liabilities. The business had been damaged by Marcus's mismanagement, but the core assets and client relationships remained viable. You have an opportunity to rebuild the company using the leadership skills you developed in the military, Major Rodriguez suggested. Federal contracts reserved for veteran-owned businesses could provide the foundation for legitimate growth and success. Colonel Thompson helped me establish connections with other veteran entrepreneurs who had successfully transitioned military experience into business ownership. His network provided mentorship, financial advice, and client referrals that would be essential for rebuilding the construction company. David Miller's investigative reporting about the case led to national attention for veteran exploitation issues. His articles appeared in major newspapers and military publications, generating public awareness that helped prevent similar fraud schemes. Your case became the foundation for federal legislation requiring additional protections for military families during deployment, David explained. The Marcus Thompson Act now requires family members to obtain court approval before using power of attorney documents to transfer significant assets. The personal victory felt meaningful, but rebuilding trust and relationships would take much longer than resolving the legal issues. I had proven my innocence and regained my financial assets, but I had also learned that family loyalty was not unconditional, and that people I trusted completely were capable of devastating betrayal. 6 months after Marcus's sentencing, I stood in the renovated office of Thompson Family Construction, reading through proposals for 3 major projects that would establish the company's future direction: federal contracts for military housing renovations, a partnership with a veteran nonprofit organization to build affordable housing, and a private contract for commercial construction that would showcase our capabilities to civilian clients. The business had recovered faster than anyone expected. My military engineering background, combined with the company's established reputation before Marcus's criminal period, attracted clients who valued integrity and professional competence over flashy marketing and low-bid promises. Veterans trust other veterans, explained Jennifer Martinez, the social worker who had helped me navigate the legal process and was now helping me manage the business expansion. Your military service record and the way you handled this criminal situation demonstrate the kind of character they want to work with. Jennifer had become more than a professional advisor. Our relationship developed naturally over months of working together on veteran advocacy projects, and her understanding of family trauma issues helped me process the emotional damage caused by Marcus's betrayal. The Thompson Family Construction Veterans Employment Program hired 12 former military personnel in its first year, providing career training and stable employment for people who face challenges transitioning to civilian careers. Each veteran we hire strengthens our capabilities and demonstrates our commitment to supporting the military community, Jennifer explained. Clients see that commitment and want to support businesses that prioritize veteran welfare. The construction projects themselves were personally meaningful. Building housing for military families felt like continuing my service in a different form, using civilian skills to support people who were making similar sacrifices to those I had made during my deployments. Colonel Thompson visited the job sites regularly, both to offer business advice and to see how military leadership principles translated into civilian construction management. "You're building something more valuable than just buildings," he observed. "You're creating opportunities for veterans to build meaningful careers and demonstrate their value to civilian employers." The financial recovery had restored my inheritance and military savings, but it had also provided resources to establish the Marcus Thompson Memorial Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to preventing veteran exploitation during deployment. "Naming it after your brother was a powerful decision," David Miller said. "It transforms his criminal behavior into a positive legacy that protects other families from similar exploitation." The foundation provided legal assistance, financial monitoring services, and educational programs that helped military families understand their vulnerabilities during deployment periods. Agent Martinez joined the foundation's board of directors, bringing federal law enforcement expertise that ensured our prevention programs addressed real threats that veterans faced. "Your case was exceptional in its complexity, but family exploitation during deployment is unfortunately common," she explained. "The Foundation's work prevents other service members from facing similar betrayals. My relationship with Mom improved gradually as she rebuilt her life after Dad's conviction and Marcus's imprisonment. She moved to a small apartment near the construction company office and worked part-time helping with the Veteran Employment Program. I failed you completely as a mother," she admitted during one of our weekly dinners. "I chose Marcus over truth, comfort over justice, and family loyalty over what was right." Her acknowledgement of responsibility helped healing begin, but trust would take years to rebuild. She had demonstrated that maternal love was conditional and that family loyalty could be manipulated for criminal purposes. "The important thing is that you learn to fight for yourself when your family abandoned you," Jennifer observed. "That strength will serve you well in all your future relationships and challenges." Dad's rehabilitation was less successful. His probation required community service and restitution payments, but he remained bitter about the legal consequences and continued to blame me for the family's destruction. "He still thinks you should have accepted responsibility for Marcus's crimes to preserve family unity," Mom explained. "He doesn't understand that enabling criminal behavior is not the same thing as family loyalty." Our relationship remained distant and formal, limited to brief conversations during family events that Mom organized. Some damage cannot be repaired, and some relationships cannot survive fundamental disagreements about right and wrong. Marcus wrote letters from federal prison, alternating between apologies and attempts to justify his behavior. I read them but rarely responded, recognizing that his remorse was more about his imprisonment than genuine understanding of the harm he had caused. He's requesting visits and asking for financial support for commissary purchases, Mom reported. He says prison has taught him important lessons about family loyalty and personal responsibility. I declined to visit or provide financial support, understanding that Marcus's rehabilitation was his responsibility, and that my forgiveness did not require ongoing relationship or assistance. Sarah's attempts to contact me after her release from prison were ignored completely. Some betrayals are too deep and deliberate to forgive, and some relationships are too damaged to repair. The business success provided opportunities to expand beyond construction into related veteran services. Thompson Family Security Solutions offered home security installations with veterans' preference pricing, while Thompson Family Property Management helped veteran families maintain their homes during deployments. You're creating an integrated business network that serves veteran families comprehensively, Jennifer observed. Each service strengthens the others and demonstrates your commitment to supporting the military community long-term. The most meaningful part of the business growth was hiring Marcus's former construction clients who had lost money during his criminal period. Several families had paid for work that was never completed, and the new company honored those contracts without additional payment. It wasn't legally required, but it was morally necessary, I explained to Colonel Thompson. Those families lost money because of crimes committed using my identity. Making them whole was part of restoring my own integrity. 1 year after Marcus's sentencing, I received a text message from Mom. I'm proud of the man you've become, and I'm sorry for the family that failed to support you when you needed us most. I responded, thank you. I had to become that man without you, but I'm grateful you can see the result. The response represented both forgiveness and boundaries. I could acknowledge her remorse without forgetting her failures, accept her pride without needing her approval, and maintain family connection without compromising my independence. Standing in the office that represented everything I had rebuilt from the wreckage of Marcus's betrayal, I realized that the criminal investigation had taught me more about strength and integrity than any military training I had received. Family loyalty means supporting people when they make good choices, not enabling them when they make criminal choices. True strength means fighting for justice when you've been wronged, not accepting abuse to preserve false peace. And real success means building something meaningful from honest work, not stealing shortcuts that destroy everything valuable in your life. The construction company employed 23 veterans. The foundation had prevented 12 documented cases of deployment exploitation, and the business generated enough profit to support continued growth and community service. Marcus had tried to steal my inheritance, my identity, and my future. Instead, his criminal behavior forced me to build something better than anything I could have inherited, surrounded by people who earned their positions through merit rather than family connection. I learned that you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond to their treatment. You cannot prevent betrayal, but you can refuse to let betrayal define your future. And you cannot choose your family, but you can choose to build relationships with people who share your values and respect your dignity. The best revenge against people who try to destroy you is building a life so meaningful and successful that their betrayal becomes irrelevant to your happiness. Have you ever faced a situation where family members betrayed your trust or took advantage of your absence? How did you handle the conflict between family loyalty and personal justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know what you think about the importance of standing up for yourself, even when it costs you relationships with people you love. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others who might be facing similar challenges find the support and encouragement they need. Subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family betrayal and building strength through adversity. And please share this with anyone who might need to hear that it's possible to rebuild your life even after the people closest to you try to destroy everything you've worked for. Thank you for listening to this story, and I hope it reminds you that your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond when life tests your character and resilience.